maximum benefit for economic diversification in an environmental sustainable manner. The objective of government is to achieve optimal and sustainable utilization of the country's coal resources to drive economic growth through increasing the contribution of clean coal to Botswana's energy mix. However, I must hasten to state that we are committed to energy transition as espoused by our Integrated Energy Resource Plan, the IRP, which aims to achieve 30% of the energy mix from renewable energy source by 2030. 30% is not bad, ladies and gentlemen, isn't it? And we know most of it is from the sun. It's solar, something which I really believe in. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Botswana government and my ministry, I convey our message of appreciation and sincere regard for the ongoing support shown by you delegates, our stakeholders and investors in the African mining development and in the challenging world and environment we find ourselves in. We are happy to be hosting the African Mining Summit for 5th time since its inception. Even though I've not been given permission, I don't think we mind to host more. Bring more here. I think we don't mind to host some more. Finally, let me give thanks to our colleagues of the African Union Commission for the African Mining Summit Initiative, the organizers, PNXY Limited, and our summit chairman. You have worked so hard to bring us together to deliberate meaningfully on real issues and hold the key to our future success. Let's give them a round of applause. You will pardon me, I'm a teacher, so I'll ask you to clap several times. You really have pardoned me on that. Looking at the positive reviews that the summit has generated, it is apparent that indeed a focus on strategy, management, and monetary systems is essential for achieving the intended goal of the African mining vision. It has become evident that activities should be implemented by member states with the help of partners and the full participation of all stakeholders, that is, government, private sector, civil society, communities actively involved in all levels, country, regionally, and continentally. With these remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for having found time from your busy schedules to attend this summit, and I wish you fruitful discussions for the coming days. I further invite you to fully explore the full banquet for the cultural dinner to experience the true glamour and spirit of Africa in dance and song and other cultural offerings. I will not talk about the tasty meat. My president knows how to describe it better, but have the chance to taste the best beef in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. We will immediately dive into our next program. And to do so, let me introduce the next panel chair. It's my good friend, James Campbell, and the panelists, Bakani Mutabani, Johan McHive, Dr. Leon Daniel, Metla Masire, and Umogolo Matumo. The profiles have, I'll take them as read, so I'll just, immediately, James, please, and your panelists, can you just, yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Could I ask my panelists to come up and join me? I think they know who they are. Jacob introduced them already. Don't be shy, please. You can take your seat wherever. There we are. Don't worry about that. There we go. Just make sure you all have a mic. Great. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You'll all have read my introduction on this panel, and as Jacob mentioned, I'm going to take that actually as read. And just a tiny bit about myself before we dive in here. My name is James Campbell, Managing Director of Botswana Diamonds, a London AIM and Botswana Stock Exchange listed company. For the younger folk out there, I was Managing Director of African Diamonds PLC, one of the original developers of the Karowe mine in 2006 and 2010. And even before that, I built the first mine at Lerala in 1998. So I've been a bit around the bush here in Botswana. So the three issues I'd like to distill for the panel are as following. Rough diamond prices are down 30 to 40% this year, and are only forecast to begin improving next year. And one of the questions I'll be having, and the panel will be looking at it, are we seeing a structural shift in diamond pricing? The relevance, and I struggled with the adjective of this one, of lab-grown diamonds continues, though many of us, and myself included, welcome De Beers pulling out of lab-grown diamond engagement rings. My kind of comment on this one is if you look at the sapphire and ruby industry, you'll see they have matured, if that is the right word, many years ago, and perhaps we're seeing a maturing of that market. And then finally, and this is really important for the future of diamonds in Botswana, is money for exploration and project development continues to get harder and harder to find, and witness the fact that the two main diamond explorers in Botswana, Leon and myself, run significantly underfunded juniors. However, now we've been down this road before in the diamond industry, and it's a resilient one. It's a really resilient one, and I'm delighted to have such an esteemed panel here this morning to discuss how we'll navigate these challenges. And I think it is only further fitting that we have diamonds first up here at the 2023 African Mining Summit here in Gaborone. I'm going to be asking leading questions to each of our panelists, starting from downstream, which is our marketing leaders, moving into the mining area, and then concluding with exploration and about the future of diamonds. But before I start with the leading questions, I'd like to ask each panelist, starting with Metla, if I could, in terms of very briefly, a minute or so, who they are and their company. Metla, could I ask you to give a moment's introduction?
Thank you. Our protocol observed. I think in the interest of time, I'll get straight to the point that I have been asked. I am Metla Masire, Managing Director of Okovango Diamond Company. I have been in the diamond industry for almost 30 years, having worked for Debswana and De Beers, Namibia, Cape Town. And so I think in the diamond space, and I ventured off somewhere in the middle to go and run water, but I'm back into the diamond space. I think briefly that's who I am. I've been Managing Director for Okovango for just over 2 years. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Metla, for keeping it brief. Bonjo, over to you, the next one in the kind of downstream.
Is it on? There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'll just do the same as Metla there and introduce myself. My name is Bonjo Umogolo Matumo. I'm a director at HB Botswana, which is a sister company to HB Antwerp. And we are significantly and most importantly focused on mineral infrastructure development, mineral infrastructure that is also focused on diamond transformation. So I'll stop there and we'll get into the nitty-gritties as we continue.
Thank you, Bonjo. BK from Debswana, and thank you very much indeed for Debswana being one of our cornerstone sponsors.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Bakani Motlhabani. I head technology and technical services at Debswana. Essentially, I run the technical agenda of Debswana. We have been mining diamonds for the last 54 years, and we'll continue mining diamonds to support the economy of our country. Thank you.
Thank you. I think a round of applause for that one. Johan Mkivi, General Manager of Karowe Mine of Lucara, Botswana.
Good morning. All protocol observed. I just need to emphasize on the pronunciation of my name. Johanni Mchive.
Johanni.
General Manager of Karoo Mine, which is of course owned by Lucara Botswana, which is owned by Lucara Diamond Corp. Mining diamonds, of course. I happen to be one of the founding ESCO members of Karoo Mine. That itself brings that you cannot blame anybody for all the things that the mine is. So when you look back, you cannot say, no, well, you could have put this dump here. You could have made this pit like this. So, it all comes here. But it's a very great run of events that we have had at Karoo that I believe that you've come to know about. Happy to be here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanni. My apologies on not pronouncing your name right. Thank you. And then finally, but not lastly, is Dr. Leon Daniels, Chief Executive of Pangolin Diamonds.
Good morning. I have to talk a little bit longer because I'm actually a fourth generation diamond person. My great-grandfather had claims on what is today the big hole in Kimberley. And his children were diamond diggers, and their children were diamond diggers, and I'm the only one in my generation, so it's dying out. In Botswana, I came to Botswana in 1980. I sorted out the very, very first diamond out of the first bulk sample out of what is today Gagu mine in 1982. I've discovered the only kimberlite in the Orapa kimberlite field not discovered by De Beers. I've discovered the largest kimberlite in Botswana. It's a 290 hectare kimberlite about 20, 30 kilometers south of Mabua Sohube Game Reserve. I've discovered what I think is the last reported kimberlite to the Department of Mines in Botswana has been discovered, which was about four years ago. It's a dike. And that's indicative of the future of the industry, that we're discovering dikes. Of course, although De Beers discovered it in 1969, I'm the geologist that recognized the economic potential of a kimberlite called AK6 and was instrumental in the activation of that project, which today is Karoo Mine. Hello. So I've been around. I've now currently explored non-stop since 2008. I've had field crews in the field every month since 2008. And hopefully that'll come up in discussion if there are any other people with diamond exploration licenses in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. I gave you some latitude there. So we're now going to kind of dive straight into some of the leading questions, and I'm going to start with Metla here on my left. And the first one is, unsurprisingly, Metla, what is your view on the evolution of lab-grown diamonds and its impact on real diamonds, the natural product?
I think, first of all, we should accept that lab-grown diamonds are here to stay. They are part of, let me call it, the diamond industry. They are perceived and seen as having a role to play. And I think if we do not take them, if we take them too lightly, we should do that at our own peril. But I think we must also be realistic and not get ourselves into a panic situation. I think this year we're going through a very difficult time, and it is confusing. And a lot of experts are giving different opinions as to why the industry is doing what it's doing, ranging from global economy, especially the US economy, to the impact of lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds has been growing in the industrial diamond space. And I think they are there to stay for a very, very long time, because you can produce them to the right sort of qualities and sizes that your industrial requirement is. So I think in that space, the likes of Orapa Mine, they will forever be competing with the lab-grown diamonds in terms of the goods that they have. However, my view is that in the gemstone area, in the jewelry sectors, the lab-grown diamonds will settle where they settle. They will have a niche, and they will remain there. I think what we are seeing right now is distorted. It's distorted by the fact that people are economically challenged, and when you're in a situation like that, the lab-grown becomes attractive. I think the other challenges that the lab-grown diamonds are going to have, they are oversubscribed. There are just too many players, and we can see that costs are dropping. So they'll reach a point where a lot of the players will have to either drop off because it will become unviable. But they will still remain, but I think the impact, they may challenge one or two types of diamonds that we have, like the eye color and other things like that. But I think in general, they will settle, and whether they settle at 5% or 10% of the market, whatever they settle, that will be the home. And then the natural diamonds will take the balance of the space. Are we still working on the 2 minutes?
You're over 2 minutes.
Okay.
But don't worry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think I've been told that we must manage time, so I think that's all I'll say for the lab-grown diamonds. Yeah, they are here, but I don't think we must have sleepless nights, but we mustn't take them for granted.
Thank you, Medla. And moving on to your own company now, we've all read in the press about the increased allocation going to the Okavango Diamond Company, and some of the press have concerns about that. Now, please could you tell us a little bit more about how you'll allay those concerns in terms of Okavango and the expected increase in allocation of Debswana diamonds?
I'm glad you, I don't know if I'm glad you omitted to talk about some people are excited, but let's talk about those who are concerned, yeah. I think yes, and I think people are rightly concerned in terms of given that the responsibility that is being given to Okavango Diamond Company. But I just want to remind everybody that Okavango Diamond Company, it's not the first time that it is going to have an increase in its allocation. We moved in 2020 from 15% to 25%. And I want to remind everybody we did that during COVID. So I think that in itself demonstrated that we have mechanisms and ways of adjusting our processes. But what we are going to do this time, I think there are 5 issues that we are focusing on in terms of the preparation. We haven't yet seen the agreement. They haven't yet not published in terms of how it's going to be structured, when the allocation is going to come, how is it going to be broken down. So I can't comment in detail about that. We've done some scenario plannings in terms of depending on how the allocation is broken down over the 10 years. But what is important, first of all, is our ability to purchase the diamonds. So we have to arrange the financials that are required because it will be a bigger allocation. We need to make sure that the safekeep and the storage of the products, because at any given time, when you have 2 cycles or 3 cycles overlapping, that's a significant amount of diamonds. You're talking about billions of dollars, billions of pulas at any given time. So it's a lot of money. The other thing is the technology that we are looking at to start handling the bigger quantities. We are in collaboration with B3, in collaboration with UB, looking at some of our machineries that we are using to try and optimize them so that they can help us handle bigger locations. We have looked at our structures. We are putting together a stronger marketing team where we have revised and will be changing our sales strategy. As you know, ODC has been focusing only on auctions. We will be moving away and introducing other channels. So that should address both in terms of risk and sales diversification. I think that would allay the fears of a lot of people. So there's a lot of work that has been taking place. There's a lot of work that is taking place, and there's a lot of work that still is going to take place. So I think with that, we should be comfortable that we have demonstrated our ability. This is a scaling up, so it's not like there's going to be anything fundamentally new that we don't know. It's just how do we handle the bigger scaling up and the associated complications and the bigger role we'll be playing in the international space, given the significance and the quantity of the diamonds that we'll be providing to the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Metla. There will be time at the end of this particular session where there'll be questions from the floor, so I'm going to try and manage it that way. Bonjo, moving on to yourself. Now, HB Diamonds has got a unique selling proposition, so perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the kind of technologies and the mechanisms you use to gain insight into post-production retail value, and particularly how that kind of reflects on overall value to the company themselves.
Right. Thank you very much, James, for that question. And once again, good morning, everyone. I think I'll start by maybe just giving, by way of background. I think traditionally when we talk about the diamond and mineral industry, we've seen that globally it's characterized by a very complex supply chain, which in most instances becomes very susceptible to unethical behavior. Sometimes it becomes susceptible to people taking goods from a specific area to outside the country in search of cheap labor. And that has been a trend that has existed. Not to say the entire industry functions in that manner, but that's something that we've seen in times past. So what we've done is that we have asked the important question: what can we do to change this? Because the reality is that today's consumer asks questions that want to pierce the veil of opacity in this industry. Is what we're doing and what we're saying correlating? Are we simply just saying we're mining sustainably and ethically, or are we actually mining sustainably and ethically? So what we've done is that we've decided that we can take the whole value chain and create a closed loop system and take out the middleman. So essentially you have the rough diamond. So from mine right all the way to the final consumer or the end consumer, all the transformation process is done internally. So we use technology. We have our own branch, our own R&D arm within the organization called HB Blueprint. So we develop different technologies there that will ultimately help us enhance efficiency and effectiveness of our overall processes. So it's these technologies that allow us to get into partnerships such as Lucara, where we have the estimated polish price value. And thereafter, through the use of our technology, the difference between that estimated value and the final sales value, we still return it back. And this does not only assist in efficiency and effectiveness within the value chain, but ultimately it helps in equitable distribution of whatever we'll be making, or equitable distribution of profits. All stakeholders benefit, the countries benefit, as well as the owners benefit. So it's a win-win situation as a result of the technology that we've implemented.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Bonjo. And how do you think this technological and process approach be used to add value to other industries?
I think it's first of all, it's about data. Let's just start there. And data alone is not king. I think data that's democratized becomes king. We function in a business environment where we hoard data. We have data in terms of what we do operationally, and we try and hoard this data just so we can get an upper hand of the competition. But I think the starting point is data. The data that we get in this process ultimately will help in creating a symbiotic relationship between downstream and upstream. We have a partnership with Microsoft where all the data from rough, from routing, if it goes through laser, if it goes through cutting, from planning, all that information is stored in a ledger. This ledger we've developed in partnership with Microsoft. So it's not only just data that's susceptible to tampering, but what we use is what is called a cryptographic verification, that whoever has access to it can actually see this data and ensure that no one is tampering with this data. So we're talking about over 3,000 data verification points, and this is immutable data. But to answer your question, James, I think how this can be replicated across other industries, be it up value, or upstream or downstream, or other manufacturing industries, I think what needs to happen, first of all, is that we need to create a symbiotic relationships between all the players in the value chain. We need to realize that we have data, and it's okay to share such data. And not only that, but I think there needs to be a policy alignment and idea alignment, such that when it comes time for execution, then everyone within the value chain tends to benefit from it.
One of the two questions I'd like to ask BK, and that's about sharing with us the progress that Debswana is making to digitally transform. And the second part of the question is as well as the shift to the use of green energy to run your mining operations.
Thank you for that question. I think we are all familiar with the fact that digitization and the transition to green energy is very key for the future. So as Debswana, we are also doing a lot in that space, and in the limited time that I have, I just want to give you a snippet of what we are doing in the digitization. Firstly, we've taken a step back to say, you can do a lot with digitization, but what will add value in our space? And so we landed at a place where we have prioritized a number of areas that we are already implementing. Firstly, automation. So some of our processes can benefit from automation. For example, we are implementing autonomous drilling. That means that you can remove people from harm through autonomous drilling. You can improve your productivities through autonomous drilling. Another area of impact is what we call predictive maintenance. We run a big asset base. So we're moving from preventative maintenance to predictive maintenance. And through proof of concept, we've seen that that can give you up to 10% maintenance cost reduction, can give you up to 5% improvement in productivity. So these are just two examples of what we are doing in that space. In terms of the green energy transition, we have taken a bold decision to say we want to be carbon neutral by 2030. And so we're looking at solar. We're partnering with the power corporation, the local power utility company, in terms of solar power production to power our mines, as well as wind energy to power our mines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, BK. In your introduction, you mentioned that Debswana has been mining diamonds for 54 years. And then in a presentation I made to the Botswana Resource Sector Conference, I anticipated diamond mining in Botswana for the next 50 years to make it 100 years. Perhaps you could kindly comment on Debswana's progress in terms of addressing the challenges of aging mines, rising operating costs, and declining resources, particularly in the volatile markets we mentioned in the introduction.
Okay, thank you for that. That's a loaded question, but I'll just touch on a couple of things that we are doing, which is really the essence of our strategy. We have looked, and 54 years is a long time, and as you can imagine, in 54 years, mines are getting deeper, plants are getting older. So what we've said is that, one, let's look at asset optimization. Which assets do we want to run going forward? Which assets do we want to retire? Now, and we've made some decisions. We've retired one of our old plants, and you'll have seen that publicized, which is Plant 1, which has been running since the inception of our company. And what we then did was we looked at the assets that we are running and say, let's run an efficiency and productivity improvement program so that these assets, we can run them as efficiently as possible. So we're pushing high plant efficiencies, high plant productivities, and we're looking at mining and say, how do we push our efficiencies as high as possible? So to us, plant OEE, equipment OEE in the mining space is very key, and we've made some tremendous improvement in that space. We have looked at labor. You will agree with me that labor is a significant cost driver in any mining business. So therefore, by retiring some assets, we've reduced our labor cost, and also we've looked at labor rationalization, restructuring for fit-for-purpose structures. We're looking at outsourcing and privatization, and we've seen that we can actually shift things in our cost. Of course, mining for 54 years, you constantly look at the next stage of mining. So now, in our two big mines, we are now looking at mine expansion. So the Jwaneng mine that you visited yesterday, we're looking at now a transition to underground. We are now at the final end of our studies. We're moving into implementation. So we're going to have the biggest underground mine in Botswana and perhaps in the region, if not the world. And it's not going to be another underground mine as we have built it before. We're looking at infusing digital technology to create an efficient, safe digital mine. We're looking at Orapa, and at Orapa, we're going for the next pushback, the Cut 3. That's going to be a big pushback, so that increases our years of mining. And of course, we have already started with what we call tailings retreatment, going back to the tailings and implementing latest technology processing plants. And I can tell you, those are very profitable projects because the tailings are already there. You just put into the plant and you wash and count. So extremely profitable. So these are the things that we are doing. And of course, once we land these big ones, we go into the next stage. Sorry.
Thank you, BK. Johannik, that kind of neatly segues into yourself. Please could you share with us some of the lessons from how Karowe was set up as a demonstration that disrupting a status quo is necessary for exploiting natural resources?
Thanks for that question. And I like the narration in there that says disrupting the status quo. For us, that was the DNA from day one. We said we are going to come into the industry and do things differently. And it's evident in the examples that I will give. Everything that was laid, whether it's in the FS, we challenged. Number one, the throughput was supposed to be 2.5 million tons for year 1 to year 5, and then it goes up to 4 million tons. And then we said, our mining engineers, our process engineers, our mechanical engineers are not just engineers, they are business engineers. We are about mining value. And then we leveled that to 2.5 million tons, and still we were able to derive a value from the steady state type of production. As a result, that gave us time to also even finish the open pit in time, ready for the underground. Had we gone at 4 million tons, we would not have had enough time to do the FS for the underground, go out and look for funding for the underground, and even start the underground extension that we have started. As we speak now, we're sinking 2 shafts that are plus 200 meters deep as we speak, and they're going to 700 meters by the end of the sinking stage. That's the one part. The other one, again, which we challenged, which we disrupted positively, the ore body is such that it's made up of 3 lobes, north, center, and south. And traditionally, you'll want to start your production with the high grade. You know, it's volume, the driven, and all that. As we speak, that high grade was in the north lobe. Before no time, as we threw this material in the plant, we found there is value in the lower grade of the lobes, which is the south. And that's where we stuck. All these big recoveries, the Lesedi, the Constellation, the Sewelo, come from the south, which was supposed to be mined the last. Because we challenged that, we found that's where the value is. In fact, as we speak now, the underground extension, 100% of that is based on mining the south. The north, which we are supposed to start with, is not part of the underground expansion. Challenge the status quo, then you will survive in this industry. The sales platform, we are operating on 3 sales platforms: the open tender, the Clara online, and also even the agreement that Bonjo spoke about in terms of us being able to benefit both in terms of the rough and the polish, because we need that kind of diversity if you really want to stay long. And then, of course, breakthrough technology. In this part of the world, you will find that when it comes to diamond mining, it's not common to find an AG mill. It's not common to find an autogenous mill. We've got it. We came in 2012. We didn't say other people didn't have it. We challenged that and said AG mill, we're going to put it in. It means that you are then able to minimize diamond damage. We have done studies that demonstrate that because we are using the mill, it's rock on rock, then we minimize the damages to diamond. And then, of course, the XRT technology, where it uses the carbon content to be able to identify these diamonds. Because of that, we've been able to recover all these diamonds. We are the only mine, you know that as we speak in the history of mankind, has recovered 3 diamonds of plus 1,000 carat. But we started to mine in 2012 because we're challenging the status quo. It's about challenging the status quo. So if you want to survive, because the costs are so high and the resources are deep, it can't be business as usual. When we started, we were supposed to start this underground mine on sub-level caving. Had we gone that route, we would have done 60 kilometers of development, lateral development, through soft formations like your mudstones. We would not have achieved it. We challenged that. We are now using what is called long-hole shrinkage, which is a modified block caving. And because of that, we have reduced lateral development to 20 kilometers. Imagine, 2/3. That's costs taken away altogether. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on with this. In terms of challenge the status quo, that's if there's any example of what we need to do to challenge the status quo, to stay on in the game profitably, the Karoo is a good example. And I mean, I need the whole day to speak about it.
Sorry, Johanni, you don't have that. But I'm going to ask you one further question. You mentioned about funding in there and about funding for the underground and using your statement about disrupting a status quo. Could you briefly tell us about the sources of funds that are available for the kind of work that you're doing at Karoo? Because obviously that will apply to other diamond businesses in the country too as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're getting part of funding from the proceeds that we make. These big diamonds that we recover are quite helpful. The Lesedi was sold at 53 million US. The Constellation was sold at 63 million US. So we're talking about money that can come back into the business and help to fund your expansion. But of course, we've also gone in lending arrangements with the banks, and it's actually where we're getting into in terms of the underground expansion. But because of the type of method that we've also used and the value that you propose, we will then be able to pay back with the underground expansion. We'll be able to pay back that money in 3 years' time. This is a $681 million US expansion project, paid back in 3 years because of the proceeds that are coming from these big stones that we're recovering, from the technology that we've installed, and also the partnerships that we have with the banks or the lenders.
Thank you very much indeed, Johanni. I now move on to the future and exploration. And Leon, please could you tell us in your view, the exploration potential for Botswana, all the way from the large to small mines?
Yeah. Large mines, I think the possibility of another large mine like Shoneng and Arapa is very, very close to zero. Because quite simply, either De Beers or I would have found it. I have a caveat in there. There is one area where I believe there are still large kimberlites to be found. And based on the history of the South Lobe of Karoo, it's essentially looked at as low grade, but one would have to consider and find a way of evaluating whether it's going to have large diamonds, which would change the economy of that particular deposit. So that's the caveat. That's why I'm saying not zero. Medium-scale mines, I think there's a potential of finding them. The main problem is, and we can, for example, we can use AK6 as an example. It sat there from 1969, when it was discovered, until early 2000. And the value wasn't appreciated. We have a whole lot of other kimberlites in the Arapa kimberlite field. Some I can tell you right now, I can tell you afterwards, here's the list, they are dead, don't even think about it. Okay? But others have not been looked at in the same way. And unfortunately, they are being sterilized by prospecting licenses that are held by people that do absolutely nothing. But in the future, when that approach is being changed and those kimberlites are evaluated, there might be 1 or 2 in the Arapa kimberlite field that can be turned into a mine. I also think that in terms of general exploration in the areas of the country where there is potential of finding economically viable kimberlites, that's very good. Small mines, I think there's the potential of finding a lot of dikes and small half-hectare kimberlites associated with the dikes that we normally call a blow. I think there's a lot of potential of that. But the Mines and Minerals Act is against discovering those because it discriminates against diamonds. I get it discriminating on the royalty at 10%. But you can have a small mine of half a square kilometer in any product in the country, except diamonds. For diamonds, you have to go for a full mining license application, which has got huge costs involved and which is totally discriminatory against diamonds. I think the government really has to consider small mines as small mines, regardless of the product. Now, there is a lot of potential of finding small diamond mines. But you have to create the legal environment in order to encourage people to find them and mine them. They create employment. They will create income. They'll create foreign revenue.
Thank you, Leon. Before I move on to the next question, and I very rarely give a parallel for South Africa. They have got mining licenses, which Leon explains is your feasibility study and your large mining operation. But they also have something in the regulations called a mining permit, which is given for 2 years over a 5-hectare area, and the paperwork and the bureaucracy around it is very minimal. And so that encourages the growth of small, junior, emerging miners, call it what you will, and stimulates employment, stimulates revenue for the fiscus. And I think that segues nicely into Leon is about alluvial diamond deposits. You know, Botswana is blessed with significant large kimberlites. What is the alluvial potential of Botswana? Whereas in South Africa, that is almost the mainstay of miners who use these small-scale mining permits, you know, to eke out a living, but creating jobs at the same time. Leon, alluvial diamonds in Botswana.
Well, I'm going to go back to South Africa to set the example. The first alluvial diamonds were being mined at next to a village called Berkeley West, by 20 kilometers from Kimberley in 1867. They are still mining alluvial diamonds in that same area today, 150 plus years. Those alluvial diamonds, and I'm talking about the Vaal River and the lower Orange River, predominantly come from the kimberlites at Kimberley. All the economic mines at Kimberley, if you take their surface area, can fit into Zwaneng. And Arapa is more than twice the size of Zwaneng if you just take AK1 alone. And there's a whole bunch of kimberlites in Arapa that have been mined. We talk about Letlakane, Damshads being mined, etc. So in effect, you can take the Kimberley mines and stuff them 3 times into the Arapa mines. And the strange thing is, there's not a single alluvial mine in Botswana. Not a single. Now, if you're going to tell me there's no alluvial deposits, then I don't know what fairy tale you're up to. There clearly have to be alluvial deposits, but once again, the mine companies don't want to explore for alluvials because when they have to report it to stock exchanges, etc., alluvials are very difficult to report. There's another problem. I know one alluvial deposit, which I'm quite sure is going to be one of the star producers in the future in Botswana. absolute star producers. But there are a group of non-Botswana that have a game reserve, hunting lodge, etc., over the farm, and their tourists, which are not Botswana because the price is too high for Botswana to go to, take precedence. If any citizen, and a citizen has tried to go and look at those alluvial deposits, he got a whole bunch of legal letters, but there was no support from the Act or from the department to say, hang on, the Mining Act supersedes leopards. So we need to start changing that. But there is enormous potential. I can take you south of Zwaneng and show you the gravels in road cuttings. They have never been tested. In South Africa, they would have been mined out of existence. But here they just sit because we have the wrong mentality. We only think the big mines. But at the same time, if we go to alluvials and we see what it's done over the past 150 plus years, and right now, it's an important income stream for a lot of citizens in South Africa. We need to change that in Botswana. We need to start looking at citizens getting involved and in empowering the citizens. His Excellency the President says we have to empower citizens. We have to empower citizens by coming up with the right legislation and the right attitude, and you'll see alluvial mines, we used to call them diggers. You'll see diggers all over the place. Now, yes, some will fail and some will be successful. But you know what, some of these food caravans fail and some are successful as well.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you for that. Thank you. An hour in for a diamond panel in Botswana is never enough, but I've got space for a couple of questions, perhaps 3 short questions from the audience. If not, I'll leave the panel to make a very brief concluding remark each. I've been under strict instructions, Jacob, to make sure I stick exactly to my 1 hour. Any questions from the audience? Yes, gentlemen, do we have a roving mic? Yeah. If you could just maybe announce to everybody who you are and where you come from.
Good morning, Andrew Quixley from Sequent. I've come from South Africa. Thank you very much to all the speakers. Very, very interesting. We talked about the social contract. I don't think we actually used the term social contract, but I'm using that to talk about the relationship between mining companies and the communities that they employ and the economy in general and so on. Do we see an opportunity for the diamond mining industry in Botswana to extend the social contract further out into an environmental contract as well? If I was an alien landing on Earth and looking at what goes on Earth, I'd say, why are you guys devoting so much resources to small shiny pieces of carbon crystallized? Why are you not mining for geothermal energy? Why are you not mining for water? If I wanted to mine for geothermal energy in this country and I had a deadline and no assets to do it, I would call the mining industry into the room and say, you guys have the expertise, you have the resources, you have the assets, you have the data. This would be a place to start. Do we see an opportunity for the diamond industry to extend beyond what it's doing, beyond the social contract into an environmental contract where you also use some of your profits and your assets to uplift in other areas as well?
Thank you, Andrew. Who would like to have a stab at that? But quick, Leon, please.
Very quick. I don't think there's much opportunity for geothermal energy in the country. A lot has been drilled to come up with methane gas that's being totally underutilized. In terms of geothermal energy, quite frankly, I've not come across any hot water in Botswana, and I've drilled all over Botswana. Maybe at really big depths, but nobody has ever established that or something like that. I think in terms of social contract, I know quite a few companies like Lucara, for example, support a lot of projects in Letlhakane. And I think in terms of environment, Debswana is going as much as possible over to solar. But I also think that the impact that the mining industry has in terms of the total surface area of Botswana and the environment of Botswana is minimal. And that's never recognized.
Great. Thank you, Leon. Do we have another question? Gentleman here on the front, and then the third one of the gentlemen at the back. Gentleman here at the front, could you put up your hand again, please? Thank you very much. Here's your...
Dumela, Nagibidwa Anthony Siwawa. 2 questions, if I may, James.
Let's see what they are first. Yep.
Okay. One to Remchive. What's been your experience with HB? How successful has that been in terms of breaking the mold and being a contributor to your bottom line? How have you seen that? And then second question to Re Masire. Problem is I won in Tata. Sorry. What I don't see a lot right now is Tota to Re Masire is investment in exploration by Debswana or an entity like ODC to buttress your supply chain for future generation of diamonds. What's the strategy, or is there a strategy around exploration outside the current supply of the Debswana existing mines?
Thank you. So, Johanni, could you deal with the first question, please? And then either BK or Metla can deal with the second question.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Professor Siwawa. You know, the relationship, for all intents and purposes, was the first of its kind. Being a rough producer and also participating in the polish through a sales platform. It's why when we started, we put it under a trial period because we wanted to understand all kind of learnings and incorporate them in the current agreement now that we have. We now have a 10-year agreement with HB. And looking at the bottom line, because in the end it boils down to bottom line. Taking you back, when we look at who bought our diamonds, these big diamonds, the Lesedi and the Constellation and all that, it ended up revolving amongst same hands. You know, you could actually go in the data and find that, you know, these big diamonds are being bought by the same people. So we believe that when that is allowed to continue, you're likely to lose the real value of the product. So if you enter into a partnership win-win with the likes of HB, you are then able to set the price of rough. And because they're the experts in polish, they will tell you that this rough, there's somebody out there who needs the polish from this rough of this kind, and they are willing to pay this amount. So you've got that open, you know, like it's a straight line. So then you are able to maximize the value. We have seen in excess of 15% from our revenue that otherwise we would not have seen had we not been in this contract. That then, of course, says 15% improvement in revenue boils down to royalties, to taxes to government, you know, to funding our expansion. I must also state that, you know, I think maybe that question as well has come in the light of what we have seen in the press release. And what sits in the press release is what all of us know, that there is a dispute amongst the co-founders of HB, and that's all we know. In terms of how that is going to affect us, you know, it's something that we will still need to understand. We don't have any more info about that, but the relationship has been good. Like any other relationship, you know, it is never beds and roses all the time, but it has been good because we have seen an impact on the bottom line, like I'm saying, you know, plus 15% in the revenue that we have seen.
Thank you, Johanni. And then either Matthew.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Firstly, I think we are all agreed that the resources we mine are finite and they will come to an end. And certainly our big mines have got a mine life. So hitherto up to now, as Debswana, we have not had a capability to do exploration. As the resources come to the end of life, certainly exploration will help us to acquire other assets and deposits that can keep us going. So yes, in the current agreement that is under discussion, if you look at the heads of agreement, there is intentions in there. So as we unpack the agreement, we'll also look at that and what it means for us as Debswana. But yeah, certainly acquiring new assets would help us to continue to produce. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think we're out of time. I'm very sorry. The panel will be here for the wonderful networking events which we have over the next kind of couple of days, but out of respect, we must allow adequate time for the following panels. So please would you give the panel a very large round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James and your team. Let's break for some tea. We will start exactly at 10:30. We need the panelists, those that are in the panel, please be in the room shortly before 10:30. Thank you very much. Leon, where are you?